it.
Oh, there is something that I did want to say. Like I listened to this whole thing, and I meant to say this at the beginning of the show. And as I said, I had an off week, so we lost the week there. I literally called my therapist and said, "Here's how I'm feeling." I listened to this whole podcast, and he said, "Hold on, I have the message here." He
Mhm.
said that it sounds like you are suffering from something called empathy. I don't know what that is, but it's
Oh,
awful.
empathy.
Oh, is that what that is? What I asked him if he like had any prescriptions or something that he could give me to help
Just
with
get
my
rid of that. Yeah.
yeah.
You don't want it to be full of empathy.
No, no, no. So like he suggested I take a bunch of testosterone supplements and they are working. I just doubled the dose just to help me get through it. And my jaw barely moving right now. I'm
So
tweaking.
I think the thing about what Driscoll did is like he criticized men for being abusers and taking advantage of women. But this phrase stuck out to me from the Christianity Today podcast. I don't know who said it, but they said it seemed like the way that Driscoll did it was like the only way to protect a woman from being subjugated and abused by a bad man is to subjugate her to a good man, right? And
Yeah.
that was his strategy, and that was from the female perspective. And you heard from women who were there, they said, well, like, where does it leave the woman? Just completely out of the picture. So is he and I think truly did not like the abuse of women, but his solution to it was to focus so much on men that the women in his church were just basically neglected.
What and they give these anecdotes of like, there's women who are abandoned by their husbands, single mothers. They would call him up and say, I need help, and he would drop everything and go help them.
Yeah.
There was even an anecdote in there about the media guy, and he's like, he had been dating a girl for 8 years,
Hmm.
and Driscoll said, like, kind of joking, like, when are you going to marry her? And he's like, I don't have money for a ring, all this and that. And so he had just preached at like a youth group, and they paid him money, an
Yeah. All of his
honorarium.
money. Hmm.
He just hands it to the guy and says, go buy a ring and get married. And he did. And that guy's still married.
Yeah.
So,
I was really struck by all those stories about the
yeah,
incredibly kind things
right.
that Driscoll did for people. He let them live in his house rent free. There was one woman who I think her husband, something happened to him medically, a health issue, and he's like, "Well, just come over and spend the night with us," and like made her tea, and just like he took care of people when they needed it, and he
He
was willing
put
to.
he put rum in the tea though, like
He
that.
did.
She said,
He wasn't trying to drug her. He was
no,
just trying to calm her down. And he said,
right,
"Yeah, some rum in your tea." And
yeah,
but yeah, I was struck by the stories of kindness and
right.
the way that he did show the love of God to people. And I think that's something that we're going to continually see throughout our podcast series, Churches Canceled. That people, they have scandals and they make bad decisions. They're kind of assholes in the case of Mark Driscoll, but they can also be really kind and loving people at certain times. And that's like, I personally, I don't believe people are all good or all evil, evil, born good, anything like that. I think everyone has the capacity to be either one. And I think if we could see things that way, like even our church leaders, they have the capacity to do good things just like they can do bad things, maybe help perspective on these scandals and things that happen, so we're not so devastated when a church like Mars Hill falls apart.
Yeah, and I'll say this much: like I know that at the end of the CT series, they say like basically there's two groups of people that there's people who want to say it was all good. Let's just look at the impact he's had on spreading the gospel, and then
Yeah.
there's another group of people who want to say he's all bad, and or that the whole situation was all bad. But let me just add this thing. Um, there is a young man out there, 19, 20 years old. He's going to SEM. He's going to Bible college. He has it in him to be a prolific preacher, a prolific messenger of the gospel. And he's going to listen to that podcast. He's going to look at the history of Mars Hill, and he's going to go slow. He's going to take his time. He's going to be
Yeah.
patient. He's going to surround himself with good, elders,
Yeah.
older men. He's going to do, and he's going to reach hundreds of thousands of people. I'm not prophesying. I'm just saying I believe this.
Yeah.
And so I know that it's difficult when you have gone through turmoil. And throughout this podcast, they use a lot of progressive therapy phrases like trauma and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they also use the,
It's real. I think it's a real thing.
I think it's a real thing, but I think there is an element to which we tend to make things in the world, in the realm of church and spirituality. We have inherited something from the me generation, the baby boomers,
Hmm.
where we tend to make it all about ourselves. The whole point of the gospel is that it's about other people. And I think you have a tattoo right here that says "so that others may live." I think it's
So
a
others may live forever. That's
that's a little intense, but like, I don't know about that, but but I'm just saying that I think the my takeaway from it was this was rough and people got hammered, and like when we say
yeah.
that he hammered the guys, he like at one point called a all men's meeting at
Hmm.
their one campus on a Saturday morning and just spent 2 hours berating them.
Yeah.
And to that, I will just say this much. Um, one of my favorite shows is called Community. It's about a community college, and there's an episode where like a app comes to launch on the campus. It's like a social credit score app, and at the end of the episode, this whole like it was all this. It was a it's a comedy show, right? It's a funny show, a sitcom as they say. But like
Yeah.
at the end of the show, the guy goes, he's wearing like these weird outfits, and there's all this turmoil and revolution on the campus, and he goes, it's a Saturday, right? You guys can just leave. There's no classes today. You don't have to be here. And I know this sounds like an easy solution, and I've done this before, like with the church that we planted, that you and I were on their team. We helped plant that church in Austin. And it really hurt my feelings. I was really sad that I
Yeah.
had to leave. But of course, I wasn't there for like a decade, so it's different. Like I wasn't. My entire life wasn't
Yeah.
rooted in this community. It
I can
kind of
totally
was.
understand how if you're part of a community that intense that you have experiences where your pastor is letting you live in their basement, which I did. I lived in with the associate pastor of the church that we planted for like 6 weeks, so I
Yeah.
kind of know what it's like and how that builds loyalty. But then I can only imagine for being a part of something like that, a community like that for years, and then you find out, yeah, this guy's been just accusing people of heresy
Oh
and
my gosh. Yeah.